I've been hearing a lot about prices going up in Canada lately. And last month I went to Canada and I was like, maybe I should make a video about prices in Lisbon and prices in Montreal to see what's up, what's going on. I think this video will be helpful for both people planning to move to Canada and for people who are trying to escape Canada. No judgment zone in here. And let's start with the basics, the minimum salary. The minimum salary here in Lisbon is 740 euros per month, while in Canada it is 1,250 euros per month. And yes, I changed everything to euros in this video, so it's easier to comprehend and to compare those two. But we're not working minimum jobs here. Let's take an average. In Lisbon, an average salary would be around 11 to 1,200 euros per month, and in Canada it's double, so 2,800 euros per month, which is roughly 4,000 Canadian dollars. When it comes to rent, I still think Montreal is much cheaper than Lisbon. Lisbon's market is oversaturated. It doesn't make sense sometimes. A two-bedroom apartment in Lisbon will cost you around 2,000 euros. In Montreal, you can find the same apartment, meaning same size, same location, for like 1,500, maybe even less. This is just crazy. And even my favorite website, Numbeo, says that Montreal rent is much cheaper than Lisbon. As for the utilities, I feel like utilities are pretty much the same in Lisbon and in Montreal. Some things are more expensive here, for example, electricity. Some things are cheaper here in Lisbon, for example, internet, cell phones. If you live in Canada, you know what I'm talking about. Because in Canada, we used to pay, I don't even know, at least $100 for home internet and then add two cell phones. Here we pay 90 euros all in for cell phones, home phone, TV, internet, all included. Let's move to my favorite part, the food. So one thing that I've noticed is that some products or some categories, they cost the same in Lisbon and in Montreal. For example, coffee. I've noticed that a flat white costs on average 3.5 euros both in Canada and in Lisbon. And by the way, for Canadian prices, I always add taxes and tips, which is around 35% because the sales tax is 18 and I normally would leave around 15% for tips. But what I've heard from friends and friends of friends is that prices for coffee in Montreal are super low. And actually it makes sense because same price in Montreal and in Lisbon for the same flat white, well, I don't know. Another thing that costs around the same is McDo, which is McDonald's. In Portugal, for a Big Mac menu, you will pay around 8 euros, and in Canada or in Montreal, it will be 9 euros. The next thing hit me really hard, and you know what it is? It's the price for water. If we take in regular water, the price is pretty much the same. I think the difference is that in Portugal, an average price for a liter of water is 70 cents. In Montreal and Quebec, it's 0.7, which is fine. But if we take the water I drink, the alkaline water, which is higher in pH, because if you have, acid reflux or whatever, it kind of helps. Doesn't matter. The difference is just why. So here in Portugal, there is water called Monchique. I don't know what my French pronunciation, let's call it Monchique. 1 liter costs 50 cents. Or if you want to get a liter and a half, it will cost you around euro-ish. In Canada, I bought Smart Water Alkaline. Well, Smart Water is expensive in general, but it was one of the cheapest options. I was surprised, first of all. Second of all, I paid 3 euros, which is basically double of what I pay here in Portugal. Well, I mean, salaries are higher, price for water is higher. As I've mentioned before, some things cost relatively the same, and some things, for example, craft beer, the price difference is literally double. We went to a brewery literally a few days ago, and I've noticed that a pint of beer will cost you around 4 to 6 euros. In Montreal, expect to pay like 10-11 euros, which is $8-9 per pint, plus taxes, plus tips, and it's $16 for a pint of beer. Like, what happened? I remember beer costing like peanuts, now it's like what? A luxury drink or something? Moving on to the grocery shopping. Well, naturally groceries are more expensive in Canada because salaries are higher again, but I feel like it also depends on what you eat. So for some things in this video, I took statistics from the website called Numbeo, and you can see that prices for groceries are more expensive in Montreal. And that's what I heard from my friends. They've been complaining that grocery prices went up crazy during the last year. Like you pay $7 or like $8 for a carton of milk, which doesn't make any sense. Well, that's the new reality, I guess. But you know what's even more expensive than groceries? Eating out. It's literally a joke. I've heard people saying that restaurants are overpriced, like whatever. We came to Montreal and I was like, what the hell is happening? Because a dinner for two will cost you around 150 Canadian, plus tips, plus tax, and voila, you have 200 bill for a dinner for two people. Most likely no alcohol involved. Like, what the hell is happening? In Lisbon, the other day, we went out with friends. So it's 4 people with a bottle of wine. Guess how much we paid? I should mention that it's an expat place, it's not a Portuguese restaurant. But still, we paid 140 euros for 4 people. In Montreal, it's literally like lunch for 2 people. Like, what is happening? And yeah, tipping situation, I've talked about it in my previous video about things I hate about Canada after living in Europe. Tips are just ridiculous. People asking for like 18% minimum. Like, I mean, what happened to 10% last year? But one thing in the food section that's cheaper in Montreal than in Lisbon, in Portugal, is oysters. And that's what my husband, we really miss that, because in Canada we have like more than 20 varieties of oysters. In Portugal, as far as I know, there are only 4 types available. That's it. And the average price in Portugal for one oyster, if you buy, let's say, in a store at a fish market, is around euro 20. In Montreal, you can buy oysters for like 70 cents, euro cents, $1 Canadian. Also, some restaurants have those bakashak nights where you can go and buy oysters for $1. Amazing. I really miss that part about Canada. Since we're talking about food, let's also talk about the entertainment part. So another thing that hit me really hard was tickets to the shows. And I've heard many things about Ticketmaster being wild, but like, Blink-182 playing in Montreal, tickets cost $300 Canadian, which is roughly 200 euros. What? The same band playing the same freaking show in Lisbon, tickets are 50 euros. I mean, I do understand that salaries are lower in Portugal, so bands cannot charge, 100 euros, 150 euros for the show, but also depends on the arena, blah, 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 blah. But Ticketmaster, hello, excuse me, $300. And the thing is, so what people do now, they would sell out an event. They like buy all the tickets, even though they don't need that. And then they sell it for extra. I'm pretty sure the first day when they started selling tickets, they were like 100, whatever, how much do you pay for GA? Like around 80 to 100 euros, or like 100, 150 Canadian. But like 300, really? And the next thing, I was like, what is happening? And it's cycling. So if you've been following me on Instagram, you know that I love cycling, and I do cycling around 2-3 times a week here in Lisbon. So I went to Montreal, I was like, I'm gonna do cycling and yoga and whatever, healthy lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. I pay 70 euros here in Lisbon for 8 classes a month. In Montreal, it's 130. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'd rather walk, I'd rather take bicycles, like regular bicycles. I was like, I refuse. I don't want to do that. But also, I've talked about that. Also, the classes are either at 6 a.m. or at 6 p.m. There is no in between. I'm like, I want to work out at 11 a.m. I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. and go cycling. Like, not happening. And speaking of public transportation, I really love biking. We went to Montreal, and for the first time in like 6-7 years I've spent there, I've had this Montreal experience. We took the public bicycles, we rode them to the Jean-Drapeau Park, like explored the city, then we took the bridge. It was amazing. Same in Lisbon, like if I have free time or it's not too hot outside, I would use the city bike. And what I've noticed, the prices are kind of similar, but they're kind of different. So in Lisbon, there is a network called Gira, and you can either buy a monthly pass for 15 euros or a yearly pass for 25 euros. In Montreal, however, you can get a monthly pass for 16 euros, or you can get they call it an annual, like seasonal pass for $100, which is around 80 euros, and the season is like what, from May to September, October, so like 4 months. So yeah, if you buy a monthly pass, the prices are the same. But if you buy an annual passes, then prices are really different. As for the public transportation, one metro or bus ticket in Lisbon costs around €60. In Montreal, it's around 2.5 euros, but you can always get monthly passes. In Lisbon, I think it's around 45 euros. And in Montreal, it's around 65 euros. However, if we take gas prices, well, gas is less expensive in Montreal, Canada. If we take, let's say today, 1 liter of gas in Lisbon, in Portugal, costs 1.8 euros. In Montreal, gas costs €1.05. As for Uber, well, definitely it's cheaper here in Lisbon, even though gas prices are higher. Sometimes it's just cheaper and easier to take Uber if, let's say, there are 2 or 3 or 4 of you traveling, because Uber normally within the city can cost you anywhere from 3 to 10 euros. I think 10 euros we pay to go to the airport, and it's pretty far. But in Montreal, in Toronto, I think Uber prices are okay, because last year we came and I think it was still post-COVID kind of thing. The prices were ridiculous. From Plateau to Griffintown, we paid, I don't know, $30 per ride, which normally would cost you 15, 17 maybe. Ridiculous. But this year, I think everything kind of stabilized after COVID, so the prices were not that bad. So after doing the math, after doing some calculations, I've realized that the overall cost of living, meaning food, meaning entertainment, meaning some day-to-day activities, is definitely cheaper in Lisbon. However, rent here is just ridiculous. On the other hand, in Montreal, you can get nice apartments for less, but you'll be paying much more for things you want to do for fun, again, concerts. You're gonna pay so much more for restaurants. And well, let's not forget about traveling, because that's what we do for fun. Traveling from Lisbon is gonna be super fast, super affordable, and traveling from Canada, well, yeah, no. If you had to move to either Montreal or Lisbon, which city would you pick? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!